Hey folks, Mark Levin here. Now, before we dive in today's episode, I want to talk about something truly valuable, protecting your financial future with gold. It's called diversification. Now, for that, I only trust Advantage Gold. They're the real deal with 5-star service and a sterling reputation. So give them a call today. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Trust me, you'll thank yourself in the future. Now let's get to the show. Results may vary. Consult with your financial professional.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. I am 100% COVID-free, and so we needed a little extra time to take care of that, and we did. All right. Welcome back. You're watching what's taking place, obviously. Many of you with great attention. Joe Biden, should he run or shouldn't he? You're watching the Democrats duke it out, kind of. Well, here's what I want to do. I want to put a fine point on what's actually going on here. When you listen to these debates, when you listen to the discussion, even by the good guys, the issue is never what's best for the country. The issue is always what's best for the Democrat Party or not. The way that this is phrased is, will he hurt Democrats, down ticket? You have some close Senate elections. Will he push those toward the Republicans? He's very, very low in the polls and going lower and lower. You have Democrats who believe that he needs to stay in because only he can beat Trump. Democrats say, we can't beat Trump, he's got to go. What's best for the United States of America? This is in kind with what I've told you, that the Democrat Party is about party first. They knew, the Democrats and their media, they knew to a man and a woman that Biden was suffering from dementia. But with deceit and censorship, denial, and yes, intimidation, the most radical agenda and policies would continue despite his dementia if they could get through the election. And they know that the government isn't actually run by Joe Biden. They run around Joe Biden. It's led by a cabal of unnamed, faceless revolutionaries and powerful bureaucrats. The debate stripped it all away. The propaganda, the layers of lies and deceit. 50 million people tens of millions who would not otherwise have watched saw Biden for what he was and what he is. They saw it. They heard it. So the New York Times, CNN, the media, which are the Democrat Party, which lead the Democrat Party, not the other way around, said for the sake of the party, he's got to go. Then there are the diehards who say, no, for the sake of the party, he's got to stay. He's got to stay. We'll vote for him no matter what. For the party, anything goes. Any kind of rhetoric, calling your opponent Hitler and so forth, character assassination, lawfare, all the rest of it. It's for the party, not the country. And when you listen to these Democrats speak, both the official Democrats and the media Democrats, if you substitute party for country, or country for party, you get a better idea of what they're talking about. This is the Marxist mindset. The party is more important than the country. The country is what the party decides it shall be. The presidency itself, the Constitution, the free press, separation of power, none of it matters. How many years have we been told about CRT and DEI? How many years have we been told that the Constitution is nothing more than a document of slaveholders to enshrine their own power? How many years? And I'll further prove the point. Who would take up the cudgel of the presidential candidacy if Biden decides not to run? It would be Kamala Harris. There's not another Democrat of any weight or substance who will decide to take her on. They'll wait their turn. Why? Because all their talk about women and men being one and the same and things ought not be genitalia specific, that's all BS. That's for the masses. That's for the plebes out there. But for them, they have their first woman vice president. They want to campaign on her being the first woman president. They want to run on abortion. And of course, they want to run that she be the first black. Now, I've said before, she's not an African American unless you go back generation after generation after generation. She's not popular in African American communities. She did not light a fire under the African American community when she ran for the Democrat nomination for president in 2016. She was the first to drop out. She's still weak, but that's not my point. My point is this. Kamala Harris is not qualified to be president. She's not qualified to be president, not because of some technicality in the Constitution. She has spent 4 years covering up Joe Biden's dementia. She's been a loyal liar, propagandist, censor to the American people about Biden's fitness, his sharpness, his wisdom, his decision-making. And whenever she was asked, she lied. Other times when she wasn't asked, she voluntarily lied. Harris lied scores of times to the American people for the purpose of deceiving the public. And she did it through all the Democratic primaries, even days after disastrous Biden presidential debate. She lied. This in of itself is disqualifying, but it's much worse. The indisputable fact is that our Constitution cannot properly work when the Vice President of the United States is nothing more than a self-serving, dishonest, reliable propagandist for an incapacitated president and her party, the Democrat Party. The 25th Amendment was drafted, adopted, ratified to specifically address, among other things, this situation. That is, where the president is not able to competently undertake his immensely important duties, which are uniquely vested in his office. He's the unitary head of the entire executive branch with enormous responsibilities. Now, Kamala Harris has known Joe Biden's condition, but she's put her own political ambitions and those of her party ahead of the constitutional duties for which she swore an oath of office. She's disqualified. Even today, as I speak, where the debate goes on throughout the nation about Joe Biden's dementia, about the fact that now 8 times a Parkinson's disease neurologist, an expert, visited the White House. As the evidence piles up further and further, she has no intention of calling a meeting of the cabinet to address this. Without the leadership of the vice president, the 25th Amendment is a dead amendment. In other words, unless the vice president, working with the cabinet, takes the steps outlined in the 25th Amendment to remove an incapacitated president and triggers the process to do so by involving Congress in a very public way, then the entire purpose of the amendment and the process set out in the amendment are defeated. And right up to now, she has no intention of carrying out her duty as vice president under the Constitution. And this is the biggest duty she has. Is there anybody other than the most diehard zealot who believes that Biden is qualified to run for re-election? Other than Karen Goldberg, a.k.a. Whoopi Goldberg, and her ilk? And if he's not qualified to run for re-election, given his diminished mental capacity, he's certainly not qualified to remain as president. The fact is that Harris, through her lies and deceit, and her failure to uphold her constitutional duty under the 25th Amendment, is hugely responsible for putting our country in this precarious and unprecedented situation. And the idea that she is to be somehow rewarded as the next in line for the Democrat Party nomination, should Biden bow out, is appalling. But notice the media don't even mention what I'm telling you. None of them. Notice the Democrats don't mention what I'm telling you. Notice their surrogates are silent because they don't care about the country or the Constitution. She has demonstrated in real time that her own political aspirations are more important to her than the well-being of the nation. Day after day, as the second most powerful executive branch official, she has witnessed firsthand Biden's dementia. Yet at no time was she moved to safeguard the country and follow the Constitution. She is complicit in this greatest of cover-ups, and even now doesn't lift a finger to undertake her most important duty as vice president. And but for the debate, she was more than happy to continue this ruse. It's unconscionable what the media have done to our country by covering for Biden and the Democrat Party and engaging in this massive cover-up. But even now, as parts of the media turn on Biden because they think he can't win, they're worried about their party. Harris still has done nothing to address the ongoing danger to our nation. Why? But Mark, if she triggers the 25th Amendment and Biden's removed, she becomes president. Ah, yes, but not for long. The party regulars, the party activists, they will condemn her. She wants nothing to do with it. She wants to be handed the presidential nomination by Biden at the convention. Or if he's reelected, she's there just in case to step in. But unlike the horrendously corrupt American media, the Pravda, the Al Jazeera that is ours, Harris has a continuing constitutional duty which she simply will not uphold. And so today, America faces a twofold constitutional crisis. A president who's not competent to be president, and a vice president who refuses to uphold the Constitution of the United States. Because neither are in the best interests of the Democrat Party, only the country. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
You know, folks, we're living in unprecedented times. And September 18th could be a watershed moment. With President Trump's sentencing approaching, we're facing potential political upheaval, which could create some dangerous market and economic chaos. That's where gold and diversification come in. Gold has always been one of the ultimate safe havens in times of turmoil. And when it comes to gold, I only trust one company. I've dealt with many. That's Advantage Gold. They're a 5-star American company that I recommend to everyone. They're the experts in helping Americans protect their money with gold and silver using existing retirement savings with zero fees. So call Advantage Gold today at 800-900-8000 and they'll send you a free gold investment kit to help you get started. Tell them Mark Levin sent you to see if you qualify for $1,000 in free silver. Don't wait until September 18th. It's already here, folks. Call 800-900-8000 for your free gold investment kit from Advantage Gold. That's 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Performance may vary. Always consult your financial tax professional. You notice Kamala Harris is in hiding. She's not out there to be questioned. She's not out there to be questioned. You notice the media, when they have had access to her, have never asked her about the 25th Amendment. All the Sunday shows, all the weekend shows, all the news shows since the debate. Have you heard a single cabinet official being asked about the 25th Amendment? Since the vice president and the cabinet need to participate in that process. Not one. Not one. They'll talk about how unfit Joe Biden is as a candidate for re-election. They'll talk about, now they will, dementia. They'll talk about how he can't win, how his poll numbers are low. But they never talk about what's in the best interests of the United States of America and the American people. Now, some of these individuals are conniving enough, are loathsome enough, are contemptible enough that they'll say, of course I'm going to vote for Joe Biden, even if he's in a coma. Even if he craps in his pants, because Donald Trump is Hitler. I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, whether it's Joy Reid or any of the other racist bigots and anti-Semites that the corporate media give platforms to, do they have any idea what Adolf Hitler actually did? That there are some people who are still alive who survived it? Have they looked at the black and white films from Auschwitz and Dachau and so forth? And these people have platforms, primetime shows on cable, speak on Sunday shows, are running for the Senate. Again, this isn't about what's best for the United States of America. For them, it's what's best for them and their party, and that's how they're going to make their decisions. I'll be right back. Hi, this is Mark Levin, and I've got an urgent message that can't wait. September 18th is coming, and with it, President Trump's sentencing. We're staring down this barrel again of potential market chaos. The question isn't if there's going to be a fallout, but how much. In times of instability, many smart investors turn to gold as part of diversification. And when I think of gold, I think of Advantage Gold. These folks are true partners in helping Americans find financial stability. Advantage Gold's experts understand the connection between politics and economics, and they can navigate you through these crazy times using gold to help shield your hard-earned wealth. So call my trusted friends at Advantage Gold now at 800-900-8000, 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit. If you wait until September 18th, it might be too late. 800-900-8000 for your free investment kit. Tell them Mark Levin sent you to see if you qualify for up to $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Performance may vary. Always consult your financial and tax professional.
Mark Levin, an unapologetic patriot and unapologetic constitutionalist. You can reach him at 877-381-3811.
All right, Mr. Producer, let's go with the cuts that talk about Hitler. Go ahead.
What we understand is that Donald Trump cannot be president again. He's an existential threat to democracy. Now, what I think, thank God, Democrats are not Republicans. Republicans just flock in one line. That's something that endangers democracy. That's what happened in the 1930s. The Germans just walked in line with Hitler and Stalin. They just walked in line. Democrats like to speak and think on behalf of the constituencies that they represent.
He's a very, very sick man. Gregory Meeks is a very, very sick man. By the way, America's a footnote. Why won't J.D. Vance come on this program, Mr. Producer? How many times have you reached out and they just pretend you don't exist? He's on Meet the Press. Why are these guys afraid of me? He won't come on the program. Rubio won't come on the program. The others are happy to come on the program. But there's something weird about that. Very strange. So we're not going to ask J.D. Vance anymore. We're certainly not asking Rubio anymore. That's their calculation. And it's not about me. It's about 14.5 million listeners a week. It's about you. So that's perfectly fine. It reminds me of other candidates who wouldn't come on the program. Remember, Mr. Producer? Romney. Romney wouldn't come on the show. Very strange. Romney would not come on the show. There have been others too. But I just want you folks to know that, because that's a reflection of them and their view of you, not their view of me. I'll tell you what's interesting, unrelated to this. We've had candidates on, not as many as most, because this isn't GOP radio. And we've had others on, and they will send Mr. Producer, tell Mr. Producer, you know, we'd appreciate if Mark would talk about this, this, or this, and some of them have sent questions, haven't they, Rich? Open your microphone, and I want you to tell the truth. Every single time that happens, which hasn't been many, what do I tell you?
No.
No. I'll tell you what I want to ask you. Not interested in that. I'm not doing press here. PR. When Donald Trump's come on, he's never asked, will you ask us this, ask us that, and so forth. But we've had it from occasional other candidates, and I say, no, absolutely not. Just so you know. Parkinson's expert visited White House 8 times in 8 months, met with Biden's doctor. An expert on Parkinson's disease visited the White House 8 times over an 8-month span between last July and March of this year, including one visit with the president's personal physician, according to White House visitor logs. The doctor, Kevin Kennard, is a neurologist and movement disorder specialist, quote-unquote, who works at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. According to the logs, prior to July 2023, he had visited the White House only once, in November 2022. The White House would not confirm if he was advising on the president's personal care. And, of course, the spokes idiot at the White House was pressed repeatedly, and she wouldn't respond either, would she, Mr. Producer? Let me tell you something. It's not hard to diagnose Parkinson's disease. It is diagnosable, and you either have it or you don't. So that doctor wasn't going there 8 times to try and diagnose Parkinson's disease, Mr. Producer. He was going there to treat it. We don't know who, but a Parkinson's disease, a movement disorder specialist, a neurologist, doesn't need 8 trips to determine if somebody does or does not have Parkinson's disease. This is why you listen to this program. I dig into this stuff. I know this stuff. I know people who've had these horrible diseases. So this doctor, Kevin Kennard, from Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, he wasn't going there to test and test and test and test. He was going there at some point to treat. Okay? Now, the White House will not make him available. The White House will not make the president's doctor available. And the White House will not confirm nor deny whether the doctor was going there to see the President of the United States. Now, how does that make you feel? Asked repeatedly at Monday's briefing, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre refused to say if the neurologist ever tested the president or consulted on his care, citing privacy concerns, but did say he was not being treated for Parkinson's disease. Okay, well, we get that, but there are other diseases, neurological diseases, that obviously have an impact on the capacity of the mind to function, like dementia, unrelated to Parkinson's, like Alzheimer's. ABC News White House correspondent Mary Bruce pressed Jean-Pierre on reporting about Kennard's visit, refusing to say if he was here to evaluate the president, if he was consulting on the president's health. So what then was the meeting about? She wouldn't answer. Because we will not, she said, confirm or speak to names that you're providing to me. It's out of security. Now, this has nothing to do with security. Nothing in the world to do with security. She said an extremely detailed neurological exam was again reassuring in that there were no findings which would be consistent with any cerebellar or other central neurological disorders such as stroke, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, or ascending lateral sclerosis, nor are there any signs of cervical myopathy. Overall, the February report said Biden, 81, continued to be fit for duty and fully executes all his responsibilities without exemptions or accommodations. That's what his doctor said. Now, what's missing from there is a direct discussion about dementia for Alzheimer's patients, tau, T-A-U, which is the protein that slowly but surely covers the brain and destroys the electrical synapses one to the next. Let me tell you a little secret. I've told you that I have a couple of family members that have Alzheimer's and one early dementia. An MRI of the brain will tell you everything you need to know. Did you know that, Mr. Producer? An MRI of the brain will tell you if, for example, an Alzheimer's tau is present, how advanced it is, where it is on the brain. I've seen it with my own 2 eyes. No, not me, with a relative. So here we are, guessing games, when one simple test will demonstrate, at least as applies to Alzheimer's, yes or no. One simple test. And he won't take it. Now look, you and I have a different motive than the media, Democrat members of Congress, Democrats running for office. You and I want to get to the bottom of this. You and I love our country. You and I have known for years that this was an absolute scam. You know, it is amazing to me when we have hosts here and there who claim they were the first to recognize it. Have you seen that, Mr. Producer? Are they nuts? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. All the positioning going on, all the distractions, all the static. It is simple as a matter of medical science to determine if somebody has Alzheimer's, at what stage it is, or if somebody has dementia, what stage it is. It's not, shall I say, brain surgery. The medicine has made enormous leaps, or the diagnoses, the ability to diagnose, enormous leaps. No great solutions, certainly no cures, something that eludes us despite the spending of hundreds of billions of dollars. People are desperately trying. And so they talk about Kamala Harris next in line. Kamala Harris in no way in hell should be the next in line. She sits on the sideline, or worse, she takes out the pom-poms and dances across the stage in defense of Joe Biden's mental acuity. Isn't it also amazing to you, ladies and gentlemen, to underscore a point I made earlier in the hour, that the media are not demanding that Kamala Harris explain why she has not taken steps under the Constitution, and that every single cabinet member who's supposed to participate in this process, not one has been questioned, not one. When you read the New York Times editorial of last week saying that Biden should go, and all these newspaper corporations putting out their editorials that Biden needs to go, many of them now talk about next in line Kamala Harris. But if Biden needs to go, that is, to announce that he can't run because of his mental impairment, just think as a rational human being, then how can he stay as a result of his mental impairment? The nuclear codes don't go away. Our enemies are no less motivated to take steps against us and our allies. And if you have mid to advanced dementia or Alzheimer's, it gets worse and worse, faster and faster. You can even see it with Biden. 1 month he's worse than the next. So while the newspapers keep running these stories, an anonymous former staffer or current staffer who worked for Biden when he was vice president, now president, and how many more members of Congress, Democrats, are going to demand that Biden step aside? And now we have experts intoning about what they think, before telling us he's fine, now telling us he's not. They are literally making the case, writing the brief for Kamala Harris and the cabinet to take steps now to go to Congress to remove Joe Biden. And they won't do it. And Kamala Harris won't do it because she doesn't give a lick about the country or the Constitution. Because she knows if she does it, some percentage of the Democrat Party, maybe significant, will forever have the long knives out for her. She figures, I'll sit tight, I'll sit pretty. Because one way or another, Joe's going. If he loses election, I'm next in line to run. If he decides not to run, I step in. If he's forced out, I step in. So why do anything necessary to taint or tarnish my ambition, even though the country needs it? Even though that's her job and that of the cabinet. And as I said, maybe as a result of this broadcast, but as I've said up to this point, not a single question to Kamala Harris or a single cabinet official. Why aren't you doing something to conduct a meeting to raise questions about the competency, the ability of Biden to do his job, and follow the process of the 25th Amendment? If not now, when? What's the amendment for? I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
You know, folks, we're living in unprecedented times. And September 18th could be a watershed moment. With President Trump's sentencing approaching, we're facing potential political upheaval, which could create some dangerous market and economic chaos. That's where gold and diversification come in. Gold has always been one of the ultimate safe havens in times of turmoil. And when it comes to gold, I only trust one company. I've dealt with many. That's Advantage Gold. They're a 5-star American company that I recommend to everyone. They're the experts in helping Americans protect their money with gold and silver using existing retirement savings with zero fees. So call Advantage Gold today at 800-900-8000 and they'll send you a free gold investment kit to help you get started. Tell them Mark Levin sent you to see if you qualify for $1,000 in free silver. Don't wait until September 18th. It's already here, folks. Call 800-900-8000 for your free gold investment kit from Advantage Gold. That's 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Performance may vary. Always consult your financial tax professional. To remind you of a few things, ladies and gentlemen. We have fantastic affiliates. But we also have provided you the ability, using modern technology, to reach out to this program as you wish. They call it podcasting. And we podcast this program as well. And if you want to download the podcast so you can access it any time, day or night, any day of the year, go to marklevinshow.com, MarkLevin show.com. Click on Audio Rewind at the top and pick your favorite podcast platform. Is our website working today, Mr. Producer? It is back again. Well, we want to thank all the technicians who don't know what the hell they're doing. Or go to your favorite podcast platform and search Mark Levin Show and subscribe for free. So no matter what's going on in your community, if there is a preemption, if we move to another station, you can always find us. You can find all my full podcast interviews, specials on YouTube as well. Go to youtube.com at Mark Levin Show, youtube.com at Mark Levin Show, or search Mark Levin Show in YouTube. Now, what about Marco Rubio? Could he serve as vice president to President Trump? Let's find out. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. The time for the media to have focused on Biden's mental deficiencies would have been well before the Democrat primaries. But as I said in the first hour, they're more than happy to ride him into the White House to push their agenda. Here's Ed O'Keefe, CBS News, back and forth with Jean-Pierre at the White House briefing today. Cut 8, go.
It's a very basic, direct question.
Wait. Hold on. Wait a second.
Eight times, or at least once, in regards to the president specifically.
Hold on a second.
That's what you should be able to answer by this point.
Wait, no. No, wait a minute. Ed, please. A little respect here, please. So every year, around the president's physical examination, he sees a neurologist. That's 3 times, right? So I am telling you that he has seen a neurologist 3 times while he has been in this presidency. That's what I'm saying. I am telling you that he has seen them 3 times. That is what I'm sharing with you, right? So every time he has a physical, he has had to see a neurologist. So that is answering that question.
No, it's not.
No, it is. It is. You're
Dr.
asking me.
Kevin Kennard, come to the White House.
But I also said to you,
conditions.
Ed, I also said to you, for security reasons, we cannot share names. We cannot share names.
You cannot
we
share
have
names
to. We have
of
to.
others he would have met with.
We
but
cannot.
You can share names in regards to if someone came here in regards to the president.
We cannot share names of specialists broadly, from a dermatologist to a neurologist. We cannot share names. There are security reasons. We have to protect. I understand that.
I hear you. Right there for anyone to see.
Ed, I hear you. I cannot from here confirm any of that because we have to keep their privacy. I think they would appreciate that too. We have to give them.
Question of the doctor.
We have to keep their privacy.
It is public information.
I hear you. Guys, hold on a second. There's no reason to go back and forth and be in this aggressive way.
Miffed around here about how information's been shared with the press corps around here.
What are you missed about? What are you missed about?
Everything he just asked about.
And then every time I come back and I answer the question that you guys asked.
Correctly, you didn't have to come back and clean up.
I never answered the question incorrectly. That is not true. I was asked about a medical exam. I was asked about a physical. That was in the line of question that I answered. And I said, no, he did not have a medical exam. And I still stand by that. Matter of fact, the president still stands by that. He had a verbal check-in. That is something that the president has a couple times a week.
Now in regards to Dr. Kevin Kennard.
And I am telling you right now that I am not confirming names from here. It is a security reasons. I am not going to do that. All right,
stop
Ed.
a sec. You folks, you understand the guy's name is on the public log of visitors who've come to the White House. She's not sharing names. It's public. Everybody knows his name. Everybody. So what does she mean? For security reasons, I cannot reveal his name. Like, some MAGA guy's going to get up in his face? I'm sick of that. That BS. Go ahead.
You push me. It doesn't matter how angry you get with me. I'm not going to confirm a name.
The cover-up continues. Cut 9, go.
I just want to take a step back for a second, because I do take offense to what Ed alluded to. You know, come out here, every day there's a press briefing, and we do our best to give you the information that we have at the time. That's what we do. And we understand that freedom of the press.
No, that's not what you do. You're a propagandist. You're a grifter. You're paid to lie to the American people because Biden lies to the American people. And you've been lying about your boss day in and day out. At some point, you have to have enough self-respect and character to say, I'm going to put the country first, even if you're not going to comment further, and you leave. But these people don't seem to have an internal wrestling match with their own conscience and morals. They don't have a barometer, so to speak. To my knowledge, not one person around the president has resigned because they felt misled. You know why? They've not been misled. They've been misleading us. This is the cabal that's running the country. This is the cabal. Go ahead.
talk about this last week. I appreciate the back and forth that we all have. I try to respect you, and I hope you try to respect me.
All right, enough. What is this? Gestalt crap. What is this Gestalt crap? And so the media sycophants, they think, screw the country. Let's go on the attack. And the media sycophants who you know to be racists, anti-Semites, bigots, led by Joy Reid, the biggest of the bunch. There they go. This is Thursday, when you were enjoying July 4th. Cut 13. Go.
Just let me know when you guys are finished figuring it out, Democrats, because I know y'all the freak out people. Go ahead and freak out, have your conversation, and then let me know who I got to vote for to keep Hitler out the White House. That's it. I'm done. Oh, and by the way, if it's Biden in a coma, I'm going to vote for Biden in a coma. I don't even really particularly like the guy. A lot of his policies, don't like him. He's not Donald Trump, right? Yeah. Hitler, White House. We keeping him out. Keeping Project 2025 out. That's all I care about. Up and down the ballot, from the rooter to the tutor. School board, all the way up to White House and everything in between.
See what I mean? There's no way this person should be on national TV or TV of any kind. None. And Comcast keeps her there. They're scared. They're gutless to remove her. They can remove her. They can put somebody with the same physical features, a woman, African American, even who's liberal if not leftist. But this woman, her constant use of the word Hitler, to people who really know who Hitler was, is unconscionable. And she not only uses it twice there, she uses it constantly. Constantly. As Gregory Meeks did on MSNBC today. All over MSNBC, the use of the word Hitler. It's okay. Why not? But it's not okay. It's not okay. And she sounds like these Islamists, these Marxists. She sounds like these loathsome individuals in the streets. And nobody at MSNBC or Comcast corporate gives a damn. They don't do a damn thing about it. So I'll stay on it. I'll stay on it. Regardless. Because somebody has to. Joe Scarborough's montage. Biden's a cogent. March 2024. Go.
But I undersold him when I said he was cogent. He's far beyond cogent. In fact, I think he's better than he's ever been. This is a battle for the future of American democracy. And now is a good time. In June, thank God. In June, and not October, in June, this is the last chance for Democrats to decide whether this man we've known and loved for a very long time is up to the task. As for the rest of us,
this is last week.
Democrats, that's independents, that's Republicans of good faith. Let's be smart. Let's take a deep breath and let's understand it's only July the 5th. Such an historic decision should not be made in haste.
I see. Meanwhile, the man is occupying the White House. Here's General Milley on 60 Minutes in October 2023, lying to the American people, in my view. Cut 25, go.
I would just tell you that I meet frequently with the president, and every single time I meet with him, he is just fine. How people interpret that is up to them, but I engage with him frequently and alert, sound, does his homework, reads the papers, reads all the read-ahead material, and is very, very engaging in issues of very serious matters of war and peace and life and death. So if the American people are worried about an individual who is, someone who's making decisions of war and peace and has access to, makes the decisions of nuclear weapons and that sort of thing, I think they can rest easy.
Yeah, see that? One of the biggest problems Israel has are these political generals. They all want to be prime minister. So they get into the cabinet of Benjamin Netanyahu and they stab him in the back, publicly, privately. They leak to the media. They come to the United States. They coordinate with Blinken and Biden and try and undertake a soft coup against the elected prime minister to destroy the coalition government. We're having this problem in our country. Milley lied there, in my view, on behalf of Joe Biden. And so I want to ask you a question, ladies and gentlemen. The head of the Joint Chiefs, the vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the entire setup of generals and admirals at the highest level of the Pentagon and our defense apparatus, not one of them resigned out of concern that the commander-in-chief didn't have his wits about him. Not one damn one. Worse, there's Milley on 60 Minutes a year and a half ago or so, less, telling the American people you can rest easy. Whether it's decisions about nuclear weapons and that sort of thing, quote unquote, I think they can rest easy. I don't think we can. I don't think we can at all. There's a pollster, a data analyst, I should say, Harry Enton at CNN, who's actually very good. And I want to play for you what he said today, which underscores why the Democrats are doing what they're doing. Cut 26, go.
So I just want to point out where the polls are now, where they were at this point back in 2020, and Joe Biden's worst position in the polls back in 2020. Right now, Donald Trump leads in an aggregate of national polls by about 3 percentage points. If you go back 4 years ago at this point, Joe Biden was ahead by 9 points. This right now don't look anything like what we saw 4 years ago at this point. I then decided to take it a step further. What was Biden's worst 2020 polling position? He was ahead by 4 points, which basically matched what he ended up beating Donald Trump by in the national popular vote. So this 3-point advantage for Donald Trump is Donald Trump's best position versus Joe Biden, whether you include the polls this year or you include the polls last cycle. The idea that the polls underestimated Joe Biden last time around, simply put, does not hold any water, Mr. Berman.
Mm-hmm. And that is why the Democrats who want Biden out want him out. Because they're looking at the polls. They saw what the American people saw. The ones who are fighting to keep him believe he's the best bet to win. So the Democrats want him out, not because they give a damn about the country. And Democrats are defending him, not because they give a damn about the country. It's about the Democrat Party. Mr. Producer, I literally just heard a talking head say this on TV. We're laughing because as they drive to the various studios, you can imagine in Washington and New York where they're tuning in to hear it. But that's okay. It's not a matter who gets here first. It's a matter who gets the message out. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
You've heard me say for a long time that cell phone service with Pure Talk can be about half the cost of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile. You hear just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, plenty of data, and you might be thinking, well, what's the catch? There's no way Pure Talk can offer a cell phone service that cheap. I say, just ask the thousands and thousands of my other listeners who've already switched. They're loving that they're on America's most dependable 5G network. They love Pure Talk's U.S. customer service and their selection of premium phones. So don't wait any longer. It's time to start supporting companies that share our values, like creating American jobs and supporting our veterans. It's time to switch your cell phone service to Pure Talk. Plus, with no contract and 30-day money-back guarantee, you have nothing to lose. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and you'll save 50% off your first month. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin to start saving now on your cell phone plan. Now, you know, America, those of you who listen to this program, I call them as I see them. I call them as I see them. I'm a constitutionalist. I hold the Constitution near and dear to my heart as do you. And it is my firm belief that all men and women in public office should do exactly the same thing. The key to liberty is virtue. Virtue. Now, there's a lot of talk about would-be vice presidential candidates. I don't have the foggiest idea who it would be or might be or anything like this. But Marco Rubio is one of the individuals they talk about. And I keep sitting here scratching my head and say, okay, well, how are they going to figure this out? I want to introduce you to the 12th Amendment of the Constitution, which was adopted in 1804. Unless Senator Rubio moves out of Florida and or legally assumes residence in a state other than Florida, and this would apply to anybody, he can't be selected as President Trump's vice presidential running mate. The president and the vice president cannot come from the same state. Now, you understand the wisdom behind that, right? Trump is also resident of Florida. It also assumes Rubio would have to resign from the Senate as Florida's senior senator, as he'd no longer be a resident of Florida, which is a condition of being a senator from Florida, and so he could no longer represent the citizens there. Again, this isn't really Rubio specific, but why don't people ask him this question? Not to be rude, not to try and kneecap him, but it's a legitimate question. Now, I don't think, even if those drastic measures were taken by the senator, which is kind of a sleight of hand, that would go down well with lots of people, even if it were pulled off. Now, people mention Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney was living in Texas, as was George W. Bush. But Dick Cheney had a home in Wyoming for a long time. He changed his residency from Wyoming to Texas. And then when George Bush decided to choose him, he changed his residency back. Now, you might say, what's the difference? Not a great deal of difference, but there is a difference. The man didn't have to resign the Senate or any public office to become vice presidential candidate, nor did he have to buy a home or find a residence in another state, because he'd been a resident of Jackson Hole, Wyoming. In fact, he'd been a congressman from Wyoming for a long time. Anyway, there is some food for thought. I don't think Rubio's going to be the guy anyway, but nonetheless, wanted you to be aware of that. I'll be right back. You've heard me say for a long time that cell phone service with Pure Talk can be about half the cost of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile. You hear just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, plenty of data, and you might be thinking, well, what's the catch? There's no way Pure Talk can offer a cell phone service that cheap. I say, just ask the thousands and thousands of my other listeners who've already switched. They're loving that they're on America's most dependable 5G network. They love Pure Talk's U.S. customer service and their selection of premium phones. So don't wait any longer. It's time to start supporting companies that share our values, like creating American jobs and supporting our veterans. It's time to switch your cell phone service to Pure Talk. Plus, with no contract and 30-day money-back guarantee, you have nothing to lose. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and you'll save 50% off your first month. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin to start saving now on your cell phone plan.
More logic than allowed by law. The Mark Levin Show. Call now at 877-381-3811.
By the way, I'm proud to be, as I said, the first vice president, the first black woman, served with a black president. I'm proud of the first black woman in the Supreme Court. There's just so much that we can do.
All right, so he's proud to be the first black woman president. Is that what he said, Mr. Producer? He's proud to be the first black woman president. I want to remind you, you've got all these cool technical devices. One of them's called a cell phone. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to marklevinshow.com, click on Audio Rewind at the top, and pick your favorite podcast platform. That's how you download the app. Or you go to your favorite podcast platform, whatever it is, and search Mark Levin Show and subscribe. It's free. The podcast is absolutely free. Now, what else? What about YouTube? We have our own YouTube channel. You now can find all my full podcast interviews and specials on YouTube. YouTube.com at Mark Levin Show. YouTube.com at Mark Levin Show, or search Mark Levin Show in YouTube. That's Mark Levin Show in YouTube. And, of course, you can get us on streaming everywhere in the country. Almost all the affiliates have a streaming service. So you can pick your favorite affiliate and you can stream the program as well. Just want you to be aware of all the possibilities that we have. From the podcast, which is a reformulation of the radio program, to all the platforms we're on. You know, you make a decision as a major broadcaster. Do you want to be on one platform or multiple platforms? And some people want to be on one platform, and that way they can demonstrate higher numbers on that platform. We're on every available platform, every one. Every single one. Because my mission is to reach as many of you as possible. Now, let me tell you, before the weekend, I took another COVID test, and it was good. It was negative. So I came to New Jersey. My mother-in-law's birthday. And he didn't want to miss it. And so we would go into different restaurants just because we love the restaurants there. Last night we went to a small Italian restaurant. I walked in. They treated me like a celebrity. They've been listening to this program in New York for 20 years. The night before, we went into another restaurant. This one, I think, was Ridgewood, New Jersey. The chef comes out, and they listen to us on the radio. The extent, I don't think radio owners, these different corporations, general managers, program directors, I think most do. But some don't understand the extent of the relationship the Mark Levin audience and Mark Levin have one with the other, how deep it is. They have no idea. No idea. I know it because I see it. I know it because I feel it. When I used to go to New York City, I'd walk down the streets, and there wasn't a corner in which an NYPD officer didn't shout out my name. I can't tell you how proud that would make me. Incredibly proud. Then I go to the other coast a few months ago. Same thing. Same thing. I just want you folks to know, I've never changed and I'm never going to change. This is me. I don't have a big head. I remember what Patton said in the opening speech in my favorite movie, ironically called Patton. Glory is fleeting. Glory is fleeting. Too many people on television and radio. Too many extraordinarily wealthy people. They think they can't be replaced. We're all replaced. We're all replaced. If you think about it, without heading to the books or heading to your computer, if you were told to make a list of the 1,000 most important people who ever walked the planet, you probably couldn't make a list of 1,000 people. Of the most important. Because when you're gone, you're gone. It's your family, it's your friends who remember you. Maybe it's a book you wrote. Maybe it's something you did or said in your own role in life. Who knows? My ego is in check. And in fact, I've met people from TV and radio, owners of TV and radio stations, whose egos are not in check. It's ugly. Very ugly. And it's wrong. It's very wrong. You see it in politicians, too. They lose connection. They lose contact. I've never done that, ever. I remember many years ago, I'm telling you this for a reason. I remember many years ago when I was starting out in radio on WABC, the great Phil Boyce was the program director, and my first time, they rented not a ship, but a small ship, a big boat or whatever, and the people showed up. It was fantastic. I think Don from Lake Ronkonkoma even was there. And on the side, we're doing a book signing, my first book, Men in Black. I'm not going to get into the name of the host, but this host was sitting next to me. I've told you this, right, Mr. Producer? And there are people there. Some of them are senior citizens. They spent $100 or whatever it is to come on the boat, to have a meal, to meet us. And again, I was fairly new at this. And I'm there talking to each person as I do at every book signing, no matter if 10,000 people show up or not. I take my time as best as I can to look a person in the eye, to shake their hand, and to ask them their name. It makes a difference to them and to you. You keep your humility, you keep your humanity. But this person kept saying to the people, move it, move along, move it. I said, what are you doing? We're on a boat. These people took time out of their life to come on this boat to see us. And what are we? We're nothing special. To see us. Treat them with respect. We're not going anywhere. My parents taught me this. And I always imagine whenever I'm at a book signing or an event like this, and I don't do many, some hosts are out there all the time. I understand it. I don't do many. I always imagine my parents standing in that line and how I want them to be treated. I want them to be treated with respect, not disappointment. And that's how I do this show. I respect your intelligence, your patriotism, your citizenship, your desire to know the truth as best as I know it. I share it with you. I don't play you. I don't do tap dances and all that sort of stuff. No, I don't paint by the numbers. And what you hear is what you get. Sometimes I'm more emotional than other times. Sometimes I'm more cerebral than other times. You know, the human being is a complex being. So we're at this dinner, not last night, the night before, celebrating my mother-in-law Sylvia's birthday. And one of the guests there, when my mother-in-law, she said, the table next to you, the people said, why isn't he more emotional? And she laughed. She said, because we're having dinner, celebrating somebody's birthday. You see, I get emotional. I get upset. I get frustrated with what's happening to our country. That's my nature. Other times, again, we're more cerebral. We'll go through history, biography, economics, whatever it is. But do you expect you're having dinner with a singer that all of a sudden they start singing in the middle of dinner, Mr. Producer? Or a dancer jumps on the table and starts dancing? It doesn't work that way. All to say, we have this wonderful connection, you and I. I see it every day when I meet people, not at staged events, but when I meet people, my local diner, my local supermarket that I go to other restaurants. There's a special connection between us. And I will always honor it. No matter what platform you hear me on, no matter where you have to go, we have this special connection. You can see it also on our Fox program. It's the highest rated program Sunday and Saturday on Fox most weekends. That's because of us. It's not just the host. You. Or when it comes to these books that I write, which take an enormous amount of time away from my family, but nobody puts a gun to my head. I choose to do it. And that's why we're the number one often author in the country, but certainly the number one conservative author in the country, because of you. And I can't tell you how many times people want to come on this program or on my Fox program for me to interview them about their books. I don't want to turn it into book notes on C-SPAN, but from time to time, they're really fabulous authors with fabulous books, and I don't think I should have an ideological position against doing that either. But we can't do it all the time. So that is why I will never lie to you, certainly not intentionally, like the media have lied to us about Biden. That won't happen here. Or if I feel I need to tell you something about the 12th Amendment and a particular candidate for vice president, I will tell you that. I will tell you that because nothing should come between you and me. It's not worth it. It's just not. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
You've heard me say for a long time that cell phone service with Pure Talk can be about half the cost of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile. You hear just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, plenty of data, and you might be thinking, well, what's the catch? There's no way Pure Talk can offer a cell phone service that cheap. I say, just ask the thousands and thousands of my other listeners who've already switched. They're loving that they're on America's most dependable 5G network. They love Pure Talk's U.S. customer service and their selection of premium phones. So don't wait any longer. It's time to start supporting companies that share our values, like creating American jobs and supporting our veterans. It's time to switch your cell phone service to Pure Talk. Plus, with no contract and 30-day money-back guarantee, you have nothing to lose. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and you'll save 50% off your first month. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin to start saving now on your cell phone plan. You know, the Democrats have a history of hiding presidential disabilities. Oh, yeah, it's true. And Francis Semper points it out, and I want to go over this with you because this, again, is not a normal American party. fact, it's an alien party in many respects. As I've told you before, the Civil War wasn't just the North versus the South. It was the Republican Party versus the Democrat Party. The Civil Rights Movement was a movement against the Democrat Party. And now we fight the Democrat Party to save our Constitution. But this was intriguing when I read it. I think you'll want to hear about this. We'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Now, before I get to this discussion about the Democrats hiding the disabilities of former Democrats and Democrat presidents, the country of Israel is under siege right now. Under siege. Iran is now arming the peaceful Palestinians in Judea and Samaria, a.k.a. erroneously called the West Bank. They have armed with enormous amounts of sophisticated weaponry over 100,000 terrorist militia called Hezbollah in Lebanon. And now we find out that there are tunnels between the Gaza Strip and the country of Egypt that could not have been built without the military dictatorship in Egypt knowing about it and helping to build them. Got that? We also know in a breaking story at the Free Beacon, remember Tom Daschle? Hard to forget, he was the former Democrat leader in the Senate, a real squirrely miscreant. Well, he's a Washington lobbyist, as they all become, and representing Qatar. And he lobbied the Biden-Blinken regime for infrastructure projects funded by Qatar in Gaza. So all this stuff's going on under the radar. At the same time, Chairman McCall in the House announced 2 Sundays ago that the Biden regime is actually withholding seven weapon systems from Israel. So as Hezbollah is being funded, armed to the teeth by Iran, Hamas has been funded and supported by Qatar and Egypt. And now Iran is opening a third front in Judea and Samaria. Today, fake Admiral Kirby, one of these spokes idiots for Biden, who said, Biden's good, every time I'm with it, still with the lies today. He said Israel's not doing enough to protect lives in Gaza. Of course, Kirby's never asked, is Biden doing enough to protect lives in America? I mean, I think we had over 100 people shot in Chicago, multiple murders. We have this stuff going on our border. But no, of course not. They'd rather talk about Gaza. I mean, Israel's fighting Iran on its own. The United States is not fighting Iran. We give Israel some arms. We withhold other arms. He's violating the Impoundment Act. In other words, the Constitution yet again. None of this appears to be relevant to anybody. Anybody. Then you have these political generals I was talking about. You have this guy Gantz, who is mentally very average, if not lower. He joins the war cabinet, but then turns around, goes around the prime minister's back, meets with Blinken and Biden, and these radical groups trying to figure out how to overthrow the leader, the prime minister of Israel. Then he's got a guy in his own party, the defense secretary, does Netanyahu. He's got to make these coalitions, these agreements. It's worse than the Italian government, if you ask me. And this guy's name is Gallant. Another dummy, but another general. All these generals want to be prime minister. All these generals think they know best. The one guy who wasn't a general was Netanyahu. Another guy who wasn't a general, Menachem Begin. Don't get me wrong, they saw combat and fought bravely. Remarkable men. Remarkable men. And of course, Bibi Netanyahu lost his older brother at Entebbe. You've seen the movie. Yanni. And so now the effectively the Secretary of Defense, the head of the military, as part of the coalition government, demands that Netanyahu agree to some deal with Hamas. The only reason Hamas is starting to make movement toward a deal is because of Netanyahu's decision that we cannot surrender, we cannot have a long ceasefire, we've got to defeat these people. But Hezbollah has become enormously powerful. And basically, you have about a 10-mile area in northern Israel now that is a no-man's zone. So what Iran has managed to do, they've surrounded Israel with their surrogates, with their weapons, with their terrorists. And now Israel, part of northern Israel now, is sovereign Israeli territory, but people can't live there. They can't go back to their homes. Judea and Samaria, where Biden and Blinken keep talking about carving that out, the historic ancestral homes of the Jews, and giving it to the Palestinians, it's a disaster. So the same people who've been backing Biden, the Thomas Friedmans, self-hating Jews like him, and the others, now they say, well, maybe we need to get, rid of Biden and so forth and so on. These are the same people who would destroy Israel if they had a chance. That's what they would do. All right. It's really damnable. Damnable. This piece in the American Spectator is an excellent piece. History shows on at least 3 other occasions other than the current one, top White House staffers and family members have engaged in massive cover-ups of Democratic presidential disabilities. Those 3 disabled and very ill presidents were Woodrow Wilson, Franklin Roosevelt, and John Kennedy. On September 25, 1919, and I've talked about this, Wilson, during Wilson's campaign for ratification of the Versailles Treaty and America's participation in the League of Nations, he suffered a mini-stroke in Pueblo, Colorado. This caused the White House to cancel the rest of Wilson's speaking tour. But the president's private secretary told the press that Wilson was suffering from digestive problems. I'm surprised they didn't say he had a cold. The mini-stroke, which caused partial facial paralysis, was hidden from the press and the public. About a week later, Wilson suffered a major stroke, which caused greater paralysis. Edith Wilson, his wife, embarked on what Dr. Howard Markle called a bedside government, where in essence the unelected Ms. Wilson became de facto president. Paul Johnson, one of the great historians who passed a few years back, in modern times claimed that Wilson suffered his first stroke in April 1919 in Paris, and this was concealed. After the 2 later strokes in September and October 1919, his physician said he is permanently ill physically, is gradually weakening mentally, and cannot recover. Johnson wrote that Joseph Tumulty, the president's private secretary, and Wilson and his wife Edith conspired to effectively make Edith Wilson the nation's chief executive. And I've argued this has really become Jill Biden's role, as I argued on Fox, on Blaze, and here. Mrs. Wilson even stage-managed very brief meetings with Wilson and senators to conceal the extent of his disability. And all of this was hidden from the American people. There were times, Johnson wrote, when the president could concentrate for only 5 or 10 minutes at a time. Thus, at a crucial time in international affairs when the post-war structure of power was emerging from the ashes of the First World War, a seriously disabled president was unable and unfit to discharge his duties. Now, during the latter years of the Second World War, Franklin Roosevelt was declining physically and mentally. As early as March 1944, physicians concluded he was suffering from hypertension, heart disease, cardiac failure, and acute bronchitis. As the post-war international structure of power was being decided by the Big Three, FDR, Churchill, and Stalin, one of the Big Three's health was deteriorating rapidly. Roosevelt. First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt, according to biographer Doris Kearns Goodwin, was reluctant to admit even to herself that Franklin was really sick. In reality, writes one scholar, Roosevelt had been gravely ill for the final 5 years of his presidency, but with the cooperation of personal physician Dr. Ross McIntyre and his other advisors, he was able to conceal from the American people the truth about his health. It was a disaster at Yalta, by the way, where he gave way far too much to Stalin. Nearly 20 years later, a young, supposedly vibrant John Kennedy entered the White House with serious ailments that would eventually have him taking 12 different medications at once. He suffered from spinal problems, osteoporosis, Addison's disease, which is horrendous, which caused fatigue, digestive difficulties, low blood pressure. He used Demerol, methadone, barbiturates, amphetamines, thyroid hormones, anti-anxiety medications, and gamma-globulins. The physician who secretly supplied Kennedy with these drugs was Max Jacobson, who the Kennedys called Dr. Feelgood. Kennedy and his aides and family went to great lengths to conceal all this from the American public. Kennedy was told by his orthopedic surgeon in 1962 that no president with his finger on the red button has any business taking stuff like that. And then, of course, there's Joe Biden. The Democrats and the press have done this over and over and over again. In this case, with Biden, they're afraid they're going to lose their clout and their power because he cannot win. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Welcome back, America. We're here with our guest, Zudi Jasser. Zudi Jasser, I've known a long time, actually. He's running the Republican primary in Arizona in the 4th District. Zudi, how are you, sir?
Great. It's so great to be back with you. Thank you, Mark, for having me.
And and me as well. Tell everybody about your background.
Yeah, my parents came here legally, got asylum back in the mid-'60s. I was born in the U.S., grew up in a small town in Wisconsin, and served in the Navy 11 years on a medical scholarship, and ultimately was a physician to Congress, was on the USS El Paso for a couple of years, served in Operation Restore Hope in Somalia, and then came and practiced with my father here in Phoenix and in the Tempe and Mesa area, taking care of patients here for 25 years. Was not only the head of the Medical Association here in Arizona, but also post 9/11, as you know, as I got to know wonderful patriots like you. I confronted radical Islam and took on the theocratic movement within Muslim movements globally, not only here in America with the Muslim Brotherhood, but globally from Iran to Hamas and onward, and realized that as a doctor we needed to treat the disease. And I've been serving the country that gave my family freedoms to practice our faith like no other country in the planet. And now I want to continue to serve, seeing my country at the edge of a cliff, brought to bear by the red-green axis of the Bidens of the world, working with the radical Islamists from the White House to Congress to the UN. And it's time that we get adults there in Congress, and I'd like to be part of that solution.
Now, you know, I'm a big supporter of America, obviously, but a big supporter of Israel. So what do you tell people in the 4th District about your support for Israel? I just want them to know about it.
Yeah, I tell them that I'm uniquely positioned to be able to tell the world and tell our country what's at stake if we don't support the greatest democracy in the Middle East and our greatest ally in the world, which is Israel. That not only does it represent an existential threat to freedom if we do not support them, but if we don't stand up to the radicals like Hamas, Iran, and all of those that are surrounding them in a neighborhood which is the worst neighborhood on the planet, that we will be next. And the horrors that we're seeing in the genocide of the Holocaust will come back if we don't stand with our ally and bring back presidents like President Trump that created the Abraham Accords and was able to advance liberty and advance a support of the State of Israel. And as a Muslim, I've recognized that anti-Semitism is an endemically taught ideology within the mosques and within Islamic organizations, and that I confronted that. I walked towards that fire, and my family paid a dear price for that. We were listed on hate sites from Al-Qaeda to ISIS to Muslim Brotherhood across this country, and I wrote a book called The Battle for the Soul of Islam, realizing that the cancer of terrorism is like saying that Blitzkrieg was a cancer. It's really Nazism, and the Nazism of political Islam is what created the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas and others. So I, even more than a member of the Jewish community, I, as a member of the Muslim community, can be an antidote immediately to the Ilhan Omars of the world. And people should go to z4az.com, z4az.com, if they want to see a change in Congress to where we can immediately do away with the identity politics, the gaslighting of the BLM movement and the squad that's pro-Hamas, and have real Americans in Congress that can marginalize these militant identity politic Islamists.
In fact, you created an organization to confront them, and you've been threatened a lot by the radicals, haven't you?
Very much so. And, we've been told that we're Uncle Toms, and, I've been targeted during my testimonies to Congress, and built a coalition that ultimately of a Muslim reform movement of many startup groups that believe in Western liberal democracy, liberal republics like our great country of America. And but that price is a small price to pay as we look across the world, and my family's in Syria and across the Middle East are living in dictatorship and don't have the oxygen of freedom that we have here. They're living a few miles away from chemical weapons attacks from Assad, from Iran's theocracy. And what I can do to pay back this country is to continue to serve, to walk towards that fire, to expose the radicals, and make sure my kids, listen, the only way to defeat jihad is to teach our kids that the only thing worth dying for is America. God doesn't need us to die for his religion, and the jihadists are trying to rebrand themselves under the vacuum that is the Biden administration now. The jihad brand is about dying for the Islamist movement, and we see that happening with the BLM movement and others where they want to destroy the foundations of America. And it's a very small price to pay to defend this country and walk towards the political arena to be able to stand tall that our foundations, our Constitution is only is much more than the paper it's written on. It is about a country that is worth dying for, that's worth protecting. Mm-hmm. And if we don't articulate that, we won't have a country anymore. And people should go to z4az.com to see what my campaign is about.
Now, first of all, Mr. Producer, let's put that on our social sites. Zudi Jasser is even attacked by people I know who should know better, as far as I'm concerned. And I want to hold you over to the next segment, Zudi Jasser, so we can talk more about the district, about who's endorsed you, about who you're running against, and who holds the seat currently. I'm talking to Zudi Jasser, who's a great American patriot above all things. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
I've known Zudi Jasser for many years. He's a great patriot. And the man has guts. Stands up against the Islamists. Which, you have to imagine, if you're Muslim, it's not that easy to do. But he does it. He formed an organization to fight them. And he does. He fights them in the trenches, so to speak, politically. And he's a great patriot. And you can go to z4az.com, because most people don't spell Zudi correctly. But anyway, it's z4az.com, z4az.com. So tell us about your district. Tell us who you're running against. Tell us about your endorsements to date.
Yeah, so the district is the 4th district. It's all in Maricopa County, includes predominantly all of Tempe and most of Mesa, a little bit of Phoenix and a little bit of Scottsdale. And it's the old Kirsten Sinema district, but it was redistricted a little over 2 years ago and became now basically a swing district. It's a D plus 1.5%. This district's been won by Doug Ducey, Republican, by 6 points, Kimberly Yee by 1.5. So it can be won by Republicans. The current member of Congress there is Greg Stanton, the old Phoenix mayor, who's been really resting on his laurels. He's 100% Biden rubber stamper. Recently, just last week, endorsed including illegals in the illegals in the census count of constituents, which shows you where his priorities are. He's completely missing in action in an empty suit. And by the way, the numbers for this district are 38% independents, 32% Republican, and 30% Democrat. So there should be a conservative in this seat in this year's election, as there's going to be huge changes in November towards a red wave, as we're hoping. And I'm not taking anything for granted. The other primary candidates, there's 3 of them. They've all run before, one 6 times, the other one 3 times. And the main opponent I have won last time, Kelly Cooper, but then he lost the stand in this split district by 13 points. So, voters are looking for people they can trust on the border. Kelly supported the border plan, the Biden border plan that allowed 5,000 across, which wasn't bipartisan, and my opponent called it bipartisan. And he has been squishy on a number of issues and over his skis on foreign policy issues. He didn't even, in our debate, support Israel clearly, said that they really, America needs to retract and et cetera. And bottom line is
one of them.
We need to articulate that October 7 was an existential threat to the West. It was a act of horrific war, of genocide by Hamas, which is in their charter, and there's no more clear time that we need to stand with our allies and continue to support them.
Now, have I endorsed you yet? I think I did, didn't I?
I would be honored if you would. That would be wonderful. I've been endorsed by Charlie Kirk and Senator Kyle and Hugh Hewitt and Seth Leibson and Glenn Beck, and you would be an amazing addition to that, Mark. Well,
I formally endorse you, Zudi. I'm sorry I hadn't already, to be perfectly honest with you. But you have my
God bless you. Thank you.
Absolute support. And I can vouch for you, no matter what other people might say. I can vouch for you. And that would be a hell of a win there, the primary and then the general election as well. So basically you have conservative support in all the different conservative factions, it sounds like to me, no?
Exactly, and that's what I think is one of the differences I can make is, I get it right now, the families we talk to, they care about the border number 1, 2, and 3. They want to seal it, build Trump's wall, and stop the crime and drugs that come in, but also the economy. Inflation's killing our families here, and it's just, I get it. I'm a small business owner. I've been fighting against Obamacare and all the things. But I can also hit the ground running and generate a national platform that I have, as you know, to raise the money needed to beat the Democratic, the DCCC machine that keeps puppets like Greg Stanton in place. He's had no committee assignments that anybody knows about. He's had no platform, does no media, and yet continues to get reelected because he's not had serious competition. So I can bring serious competition and also then be an antidote on day one to the Ilhan Omars and Rashida Tlaibs and the Black Lives Matter squad types that want to destroy this country through identity politics and rebrand conservative movements of being the party of diversity, ideological diversity, and the foundations of what America really is about.
Now, way back, a few years back, I supported you being appointed to fill the vacant seat as a senator. And I don't understand why the governor didn't do that. He missed a great opportunity, but I know you'd be a great member of the House. So Z for AZ.com, Z for AZ.com. And you even have some Jewish groups backing you. Isn't that true?
Yes, and Daniel Pipes wrote an amazing piece saying that, one of the most important possible new members of Congress, and we've been working with a number of pro-Israel groups Because, listen, I do it because it's conviction. It's not because it's a talking point. I believe that the defense of Israel is what the future of the West is about. And if we're going to save the West from the BLM and Red-Green Axis and others, we have to stand with allies like Israel, because that's how we defeat radical Islam, is by defending religious minorities. And I was appointed to the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom for 4 years by the U.S. Senate, so I've gone to these countries and looked at their face and translated what they were saying in Arabic to our State Department and expressed to them, the realities of the hate that was being transmitted. And I'd like to continue to do that on behalf of not only my district in Mesa and Tempe, but on behalf of America.
And you're a great lover of the country. You've made that clear. You want the border secure. You believe in American sovereignty. You want to build up the United States military. And you're a great patriot. And so, of course, I endorse you. I hope people will come to your aid. It's a busy primary, so turnout means everything. So when is the primary? How does the voting take place in Arizona?
So this is what's so important. Right now, the ballots went out a few days ago. It's in people's mailboxes. 80% of people are going to vote in the next 2 weeks by mail. So this is why it's so important that they go to our website, z4az.com, if they don't know. If you're in Mesa, Tempe, if you know any friends in the area, in Maricopa County, in these cities, please call them, get them on board. This is quite a movement. We will change not only the state and secure it, but the country with this campaign. But then our primary day is July 30th. So the other 20% are all going to vote in person on July 30th. And once we win the primary, we will hit the ground running to give Stanton a competition and a run for his money that he's never had before. And we will flip this seat and not only help the Republican majority in November, but help rebrand conservatism as the party of diversity and the party of Americanism.
Now, did you say ballots are mailed out? How does that work? Ballots are mailed out?
Yep, ballots for those that want to vote by mail or early. They were sent out last week and came into the mailboxes on July 5th.
Okay. Well, my full-hearted support, Zudi Jasser, you folks that have those ballots and are in his district, I hope you'll strongly come out and support him. These primaries are turnout issues. We saw what happened in Virginia. The incumbent lost by like 300 votes out of tens of thousands cast, and this happens from time to time. So it's z4az.com, z4az.com, Zudi Jasser, and he's a great American patriot. I wish you all the best, my friend. Keep me informed. Let me know how it turns out.
Absolutely. You're the best. I appreciate it more than I can say, and I look forward to serving in Congress and talking to you more.
All right. God bless you. Take care of yourself. He's the real deal. I don't care what anybody tells. I'll get an email from one guy I know. But you don't know about that. I know about everything. And you got to trust people. What else you go on? But he's had a long history of taking on these Islamists. He has a long history of serving in the United States military. He has a long history of supporting conservative principles and conservative candidates. That's why he's backed by me, by Kirk, by who else did he say? A whole host of people. Beck, that's important, and so many others, and a number of Jewish. Seth Leibson, who is a buddy of mine as well. He's on radio in Phoenix. So a lot of us, we know Zudi Jasser, and I encourage you to support him. Now I want to make a comment about this Project 2025 and the Heritage Foundation. I'm not a politician. I'm not in a campaign. But much of what's in that Project 25 report, I personally support. I'm a big admirer of the Heritage Foundation and its new president. I've never met him. I know who he is. So before we start chucking allies overboard, and I don't say this to be provocative, I don't say this to quote-unquote take sides, I'm giving you my opinion. I told you, I give you the unvarnished truth. I give you my perspective. They do fantastic work at the Heritage Foundation. And this project is similar to a project that was done to help President Reagan when he was running for office and eventually won. And it was a very important project at the time. I don't know everything that's in this project, but I know significant amounts that are in this project, and I consider so much of it to be very solid. But candidates have to make their decisions. I just want to make very, very clear that this is a fantastic organization and a very, very important initiative. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Ask yourselves a question, America. Why would somebody who wants to be Donald Trump's running mate go on Meet the Press, which is a loathsome program, and avoid this program, which has a larger audience? That would be J.D. Vance. Why would somebody go on CNN and other channels but avoid you in this audience? That would be Marco Rubio. They're the only two, by the way. All the others in contention. They're very excited about talking to you. They're very excited about getting their message out. We bring them on radio. We bring them on TV. Those two, it's very peculiar to me. I mean, you're going to go out there and talk to leftists and liberals and Democrats, but how about the conservative base? This is the home of the constitutional conservatives. Right here, this place. President Trump has enormous respect for this audience. Enormous. As do others. Tom Cotton, Ted Cruz, Tim Scott, Burgum. Can't remember everybody, but you know what I mean. But when they disrespect you, you know, it's not right, as far as I'm concerned. I've done very well. Look, I can just speak for myself. If you purchase anything, gold, diamond, however you do it, tangibles, not all at once, but over a period of time, bit here, a bit here, a bit here, as sort of a routine, you protect yourself even further. Just a thought. This is what I do. All right. How much time do we have, Mr. Producer? Minute and a half. Al, Roanoke, Virginia, on the Mark Levin app. It's you and only you tonight, Al. Go.
Buddy, I just feel like the political left has, for years, denigrated conservatives by calling them Hitler or Nazis. They have forfeited the right to do that because now they are the Nazis. They are on the same side of anti-Semitism and genocide, Jewish genocide, as the Nazis were.
It's a very important point that you raise. I wish I had time to elaborate on it and refurbish it just a little bit. But you're right. You're right. The radical left, the extreme left, which is part of the base of the Democrat Party that is embraced by Bernie Sanders, part of Bernie Sanders, Omar, Tlaib, Baker, among dozens of others. When you look at Joe Biden and his administration, Blinken and his department, there's absolutely no question about it. And here's the bad news. The radical left in Britain just won a big election, and the radical left in France, even though they didn't win a big election, they have built a coalition with Macron, which includes literal Hamas Islamists, both in the British Parliament and now what will be the French government. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, the men and women in Ukraine. We haven't forgotten you. We know they hit a children's hospital. And our brothers and sisters in Israel, we have your back, even though the dim-witted one doesn't. See you tomorrow, America. God bless you.